Welcome to the Earth Your Wow podcast, brought to you by Reuserbox, providing a better way to buy cardboard boxes. We're your hosts, Jack and Ellie.
This is the podcast where we talk to industry experts and change makers to try to answer the question, how do we make our businesses better for people and the planet? Today we're chatting to Matt Guest, co-founder of Composty. Composty is a family-run business selling fully compostable cleaning products. They're on a mission to tackle the climate crisis and protect the environment by helping households and businesses to reduce their environmental impact through their cleaning habits. Composty has been recognised by the Good Housekeeping Institute, where they have won Best Eco Sponge and Best Plastic-Free Sponges. Welcome to the podcast, Matt. It's great to meet you.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Ellie. This is it's a pleasure to be here. It's been quite a while in the works, I think, to get me on here, but I'm really happy to finally get the chance to come on and speak to you guys.
Yes, yeah, we're excited. I kind of, for starters, I'm kind of thinking, like, for anybody that doesn't know your brand or your product, can you kind of give them like the elevator pitch, if you like?
Sure. I mean, yeah, we create sustainable sponges and cloths. A lot of people, I'm sure a lot of your listeners do know this, but a lot of people aren't aware that your normal normal sponges you buy from a supermarket are made of plastic, and they can last 500 years at landfill, releasing methane all the time, proven to be 20 times more potent than carbon over 100 years. That's a real problem. And on top of that, they release microplastics. So we created Composty to solve those problems. There's not a little dot of plastic in our products. In fact, everything's compostable, so we've gone even a step further, and that solves that landfill issue, but it also solves the microplastic issue as well.
So do you want to tell us a bit more about your story, about how Composty came to be?
Yeah, it's probably important to sort of say my background to start with is teaching. So I was an educator, worked in education for 20 years, as a teacher for 15 years. And the story goes, honestly, COVID hit and turned everyone's life upside down. And of course, it's really negative for a lot of people. As a teacher, and you know, I'm out of the profession now, I can probably say this. It was quite a nice time. So we were just at home. We didn't have to
kids.
Go to children. Yeah, we just got our own kids. We were very small at the time. We got 2 daughters at the time. I think the eldest was 4. No, the eldest was 3, and the youngest one was 1. And it was you know, we set work on a weekend. We answered kids' emails throughout the week, but we weren't face to face with kids all the time. And what that meant to us, or to me, was that we had a bit more energy and a bit more time that we didn't normally have to just sit and think. My mind's always going and got all these ideas. So it actually gave me some chance to act on stuff. Concurrently, because we've got a young family, and I think, like a lot of new parents, you start to reflect on your own decisions and the impact that they may have on the planet moving forward. And we were trying to make small changes. So I think that's the way to go. We're trying to make small changes around the house. And we were really struggling in the kitchen because we'd buy a sponge and it would bill itself as biodegradable and it would come in plastic packaging, really defeating the object. Or it would come and, like, quite clearly it was greenwashed. A lot of coconut scourers, salsa scourers on top of sponges will have polyester blend to make them keep their shape and to hold their form. Or they were just no good. So with this extra bit of time we'd got in COVID, myself and my wife's also a teacher, and with this newfound sort of love for sustainability and need to restore the planet for our children, which as we possibly could, we thought, why don't we do something better than what we're buying here? And that's kind of where the story starts, and sort of where we started then to develop our first product.
You know, it's interesting. We end up speaking to quite a lot of founders on here that are, you know, running an environmental business or an environmental startup, and it's quite common that we hear that, you know, the people had a family or a child, and then they sort of somehow shifted their perspective into thinking we need to live more sustainably. Why is that, Jim? Why is that so common? I mean, what specifically about that moment made you guys think, you know, we need to get rid of plastic sponges? Or like, what was the actual catalyst, do you think?
And you're saying it there, Jack, and it's almost like I'm tearing myself off in my head. Like, why wasn't I doing it earlier? Why does having a kid make you change it? I think it's the although it probably doesn't matter so much nowadays, it's the time scale of your impacts. I think, you perhaps think, well, I can get through my whole life and keep consuming all this plastic and we'll probably be okay. Things might take a bit of a turn. But then once you've got kids, your whole outlook changes on life. You're no longer number one in your life. No, you're no longer, your wife's no longer your number one. You've got kids, and that's really what you care about. And I think it just completely shifts your mindset in what you, every single thing that I do, I really believe is because I want to make the world a better place, or want to improve my kids' life, or want to help their possible outcomes moving forward. Um, I don't know if you guys are parents or not, but
I'm
I can't.
not. Ellie just had a baby.
I guess
Oh,
you're an
congratulations,
uncle.
Ellie.
I'm an uncle, yeah.
Yeah. Jack's my brother.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
Is
okay.
it?
yeah. I think
I was thinking, is it? Is it that like it sort of reframes you into thinking a bit longer term? Because like a lot of like I think single use or like plastic sponges where we're not thinking about the what happens to the product at end of life. Do you know what I mean? Is it? Is that what it is? I don't know. For
I
you?
think you just said what I wanted to say a lot more eloquently there. I think it is. You start looking more long term, don't you? You look at the lasting effects of these things. Sponges, and to put it into some sort of perspective for people, what we do say to them when we're telling this story is that if King Henry VIII had used the plastic sponge, a traditional supermarket sponge, it would still be on this planet now. And that kind of really scares people into thinking, okay, that and recognizing, just how long lasting the effects of that are. And it's not just it takes up the space in landfill, of course, it's the contribution to climate change too. But I think you are completely right. And it was, I think, what was my point I was trying to get across is exactly that. You do start to think long term on your impacts, because your impacts no longer affect just you. It's you recognize that something triggers in you. It's generations ahead that it also does impact upon as well.
I suppose that's the hard thing. Is it's really hard for us to. I feel like it's like a trap with humans where we can think the whole world just revolves around us right now. But I suppose really it's we're one little tiny speck in history, and we really if we're going to try and combat this problem, we have to think longer term. We have to think about other
Yeah,
people.
I think. Do you think because you had this idea during lockdown, I feel like a lot of people during the pandemic started to kind of shift their thinking and started to think, what is important to me and what do I want to do, with my life? What's important to me? Do I just want to carry on going to work, 9 to 5? I was a teacher a long time ago, so it's not 9 to 5, is it? But do I want to just carry on doing that, or do I want to do something that I feel I can have a bigger impact, maybe a lasting impact on? Not that teaching isn't a very impactful job.
It's a smaller scale, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
teaching certainly are impacting lives. I think there's two things from that, coming back to the point about it being in lockdown. I think the first thing that lockdown probably taught everyone is just how global this planet is. Something that started off in one country can completely affect every other country in the world. And I think obviously with COVID, that was really exemplified quite well with that. And yeah, maybe it does make you think, well, can we do more? I think it just gave me time to think. It gave me time to think that I can do something about this. I've got the time, I've got the resources, I've got the energy now. I can put the wheels in motion now. It was an opportunity for me to do it. And it was about trying to make a larger impact, so without doubt.
And why sponges? Because we were kind of thinking, like we get it. You're at this point. You're like, oh crap, we need to be a bit more. We need to live better as a family, and I need to set an example. And you're in that mind space. But why sponges? Why not any other product out there?
Why not? You've got to pick a product, haven't you? It literally was. I think one day we were in the kitchen. We'd ordered another pack of sponges that came off Amazon, because everything was getting delivered as well back at that point, wasn't it? Amazon's obviously got its problems as well, but it came from Amazon. I opened it up, the packaging, plastic wrapping in there. Started to use it. You could just see it wasn't doing the job well enough either, and it was almost like a eureka moment. And yeah, we could have gone with anything, but then you look at the market, and at the time there were no other big players doing that thing as well. It was a very sort of new space that people were trying to get into and do it well. There were no big brands doing it. There were no startups really got a foothold in it as well. So I think it was a business decision as well as sort of that eureka moment that made me think about sponges. And everybody needs to clean. It's not just a really sort of small niche. And then you start to look at the facts and figures. And of course, I mentioned the 500 years. I mentioned the 6.5 million microplastic fibers being released per sponge. But then you recognise there's 400 million sponges getting thrown away by UK households, and that really compounds that figure as well. So I think it was important that it was something that was accessible as a business and would work, and that the market was there and there wasn't too much competition. That was a big thing. And then looking into it as well, it had to solve a big problem. 400 million sponges at landfill from just the UK houses is a big problem. And of course, then you got all the businesses on top of that as well. So it was almost, I wouldn't say accidental, but it was kind of, like I say, that eureka moment. Okay, this could be something that we choose to do. And you look at the data, you look at the figures. I'm quite deep. I was a computer science teacher, so quite analytical in looking into stuff. And I thought, yeah, this is the opportunity here.
So can you run through what a compostable sponge is and why it's better to that plastic alternative?
Yeah. So our sponges are compostable. Their core material is cellulose, so it comes from tree wood pulp. So initially, it's what we say, we borrow that from nature, because at the end of life, it can be composted, as we know, that then can then help trees grow. So we sort of got that circular economy going on there. Mention it again, 500 years for a plastic sponge in a perfect, ideal compost bin at home. Our sponges can compost in 3 months. So a massive difference there in terms of the time to degrade as well. And of course, they don't just degrade to nothing. They, as I say, are turned into compost. So they're useful then for other purposes. And compost costs money. And compost often comes in plastic bags as well. When you go to your local supermarket, there's stacks of it stacked up in plastic. This stuff that's been created from nature to help nature and then bundled into plastic bags.
So it doesn't have to go to any kind of specialist recycling facility. It will literally just break down in your compost bin.
And how do you? So you literally just put it in a bin with a load of rotten
What happens
food
if it goes to landfill? Will it break down there?
It will break down in landfill. It will break down anaerobically. So in the compost heap, we say it will compost or it'll degrade aerobically. Okay, so when it composts anaerobically, no oxygen present, then that's when it creates the methane or the excessive methane at landfill. So that's the two differences in the way that they kind of compost or degrade. In a home compost bin for our tests, no problem at all. I've got a few in our garden. I've got one that I do tend to, and I keep it. You have to turn it regularly, get your nice mix of greens, your nice mix of browns in there. It will go in 3 months without doubt. Okay, but if you just chuck it in a compost bin and hope for the best, it's not going to go in that sort of time scale. Okay, so compost needs that turning, needs that blend of greens and browns to get the heat that are needed, to get the bacteria moving that's needed as well. And then also you might get worms in there eating that sort of stuff as well. Interestingly, we have some people put them in wormeries. Apparently they love them. I haven't tried it myself. Yeah, apparently they do like them. So yeah, so it comes down to the time scale, but also the benefits of it being in a compost heap or bin as well.
Nice. And did you say it was 3 months it took to break down?
3 months in ideal conditions.
Yeah.
So the perfect sort of situation.
So that's like crazy compared to plastic, isn't it?
Very
'Cause I think I read a stat on your website. It said that 9% of plastics ever produced have been recycled. So the rest are still out there somewhere.
And they're not infinitely recyclable either. Plastic, glass, from my understanding, is you can keep recycling that, but plastic becomes brittle the more that you do recycle it, which of course recycling isn't a bad thing. It's obviously preferable to throw it away into landfill and whatever else, but it does have its flaws over time.
The stat I was most shocked by was the microplastic stat. I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting that you went with sponges, because I feel like it's certainly a couple of years ago. Like now, it's a bit more well known, this problem, but I think it's such an unassuming everyday product. Like when people sit there thinking, "Oh, what am I going to do to reduce my impact?" I feel like they're instantly thinking big, grand, popular things like, oh, I'll get an electric car, or
Yeah.
I'll walk to work, or do you know what I mean? I feel like it's just so unassuming, the sponge, that it's forgotten about.
I think it's something I mentioned at the start of the podcast, really, that we believe, especially as a family, small swaps are the way to do it. And if you can make lots of small swaps, which don't have to cost your wallet and obviously don't have to cost the earth, then it's much more sustainable to be able to continue with than big wholesale changes like you mentioned there, Jack. Really, I mean, I do have an electric car, um, but and that's good. It's good to see that a lot of households are going that way. But there's other things that need to happen as well with it, aren't there? Um,
It's accessible, because I think one of the big arguments for like reducing impact, or swapping for lower impact things in your everyday life, is always cost. But I would say probably everybody listening, probably could afford to get a composty sponge. So
and you know what? They'll last longer. You know,
yeah,
find that. We exhibit at the Clean and Tidy Home Show every year. It's at the Excel in October, and we give away a free sample to the people who are coming by. And very often we have people come past and say, "I've still got your sponge from last year." And it depends what you're using it for, of course. If you're using it washing it up twice a day, we're saying it could last up to 2 months. But if you're using it to wipe your surfaces off in the bathroom, your tiles, and whatever, it's lasting years or more. Um, which is great for sustainability. It's great for customers. Not so great for a business who wants to keep it and repeat customers. But that's kind of not entirely why we're here. Um, and it's interesting, actually. I know you said that, the unassuming items, the kitchen sponge. So many people don't know they're made of plastic.
yeah.
And again, from the Clean and Tidy, we say to the Clean and Tidy Home Show, what you normally use, they're made of plastic. The yellow sponges with a green or white scrubber on top, or even your big brands, they're made of plastic. Oh, I thought they came from the sea. I thought sponges came from the sea. No, this is manufactured. This is produced. So there's a lot of education to be done around it as well, I think.
And so here's a tricky question for you, but what's the number one reason people don't buy your product?
Possibly it comes down to education. Right? I think part of it comes down to misconception, because a lot of conversations I do have say, people say, "Oh, does it just waste away on the side of my sink then? Will it just compost while it's just sitting there, not in use?" Which, of course, is not true. As we mentioned, it's got correct conditions at compost bin as well, which I think comes down to education too. Um, and they are good value for money because they last a long time. They last longer than your normal plastic sponges, but there is an increased outlay to start with, I would say. So our 12 pack of pop-up sponges, which is probably our most popular product, that just used for washing up will last you well over a year. It costs you £10. Okay. Then people think, well, I can go buy a pack of 6 from my supermarket for £1. And I think that's probably part of the issue as well.
And what's the best way? That how can we get that message out more about the misconceptions around the boring old sponge?
Yeah, I think it's part of the marketing strategy, isn't it? I think it's trying to get people to recognise that these are made of plastic. From doing the trade shows, the smaller shows that I go to, speaking to people at events, it's just mind blowing the amount of people that don't know that they're made of plastic, and then they don't know the horrible stats that we mentioned at the start of this podcast as well. So I think it is just getting the message out there. People knew plastic straws are bad because they're plastic straws and they're obviously plastic. But I don't think, but they're not. Sponges clearly aren't obviously plastic. So we've got to get a message.
Maybe we need the government to ban plastic sponges.
Well, I guess it comes back to that thing where plastic is great for lots of reasons, and that's why that's why it was invented. You think about medical things and so many things that it's great for. But a sponge doesn't need to be plastic, does it? For that reason, maybe it should be banned.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think plastic is necessarily evil. Like, we had like a huge post-war economic boom because plastic was created. It's like, you could say it's been like a wonder material, but obviously there's these really harmful side effects for our environment, for our health. Like, I was really shocked at the microplastic stat, because you were saying 400 million plastic sponges a year made, and was it 1.6 billion microplastics per sponge you thought on average might be
0.5
produced?
million,
Well,
6.5 released.
yeah. So that's
Quite
so
different elements, yeah.
so that's something what, like 60 billion pieces of microplastics a year?
The
Is that
math,
right?
the maths than I am, Jack. Incredible amount, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, it's frightening, isn't it? I mean, this ends up in like the food that we eat, it ends up in our bodies and our
It's what I say
bloodstream.
to people. Yeah, bloodstream, breast milk, been proven to be an unborn
Mm.
fetus's name, showing that it passes into the womb. Yeah, it's a big problem. And as it's
Yeah.
not just environmental, it's health as well.
And maybe there are some products that maybe do need to be made out of plastic at the moment because we don't have a viable option. But sounds like your compostable sponge is actually better than a plastic sponge. So,
It'll be worth a try, isn't it? It's I can vouch for it. We launched. I mean, interestingly, I said I started as a teacher. We've got a product. I ordered it for the factory. It's on its way, and I thought, "And how do I sell this thing?" I've got experience in this side of things, and for all its, as I say, poor reputation, I think environmentally, Amazon was the place that jumped out to me as well. This is where people go to buy a lot, and I want to make a big impact. I could do little market stores and help people locally, but I want to make a big impact. I buy quite a bit of stuff of Amazon. I see the van going up and down our street all the time. People locally buy from there as well. I'm going to learn how to sell on Amazon. So I got it straight into Amazon at that point. We are the best rated sponge on Amazon. Got our Magic Pop-Up Sponge has got 4.8 stars out of 5 stars. There's no sponge that beats it. And that includes your Scrub Daddies, your Minkies, and all that kind of stuff as well. And it's got 1,400 reviews. It's not just got 10 reviews and it's not paid someone to give them me. This is proven that it definitely works well. I don't know if we can get this on the camera. This is one of our sponges. This is a single sponge. They come in a pack of 6 or 12. The 12s are the size of a deck of cards, basically. They come wafer thin. Okay, it doesn't look like a sponge yet,
Yeah,
but when
it's
you
very
do
thin. Yeah.
when you do dip it into water, that's when it expands into a full-size sponge. So the additional benefits, obviously, saving cupboard space and the like, but it reduces your carbon footprint as well through transport because it's reduced by 90% of the size that it would be if we didn't have them compressed before we shipped them as well. There's just another little benefit there.
Nice. Yeah, that's nice.
Nice piece of design. And I think I feel like I read or heard you say somewhere on something that the technology to make that compressed sponge is not new, or it's nothing new, fancy AI technology. It's something that we've had for a long time, but we've not made every day for some reason.
That's right. Yeah, it was being used, or this material was being used for a completely different purpose. I think I'm going to get it wrong, and people are going to shout at the speakers now. Something like welding or soldering or something like that. Something I know nothing about clearly. But it wasn't being billed as eco-friendly at that point. It just worked for whatever the purpose it was being made for. So that's when we picked up on it and we made a few refinements, and yeah, we've got the product that we've got now. Really, it's basically a big clamp that has high pressure and high heat that can reduce the moisture out of the cellulose to start with. The compression pushes it down, and then that's what you're left with, big sheets of them, and then they just get cut up into the normal sort of sponge sizes.
Nice.
Brilliant.
Simple, but yeah, it works.
Cool. So as you've built this sustainable business, have there been any instances where you've had to choose you've had to make a decision over like choosing sustainability over profit, or what are those difficult business decisions, and how do you kind of handle that as a business owner?
I can't think of a particular time where something like that's jumped out. I think one thing when I did set out to do this was that it was going to be thought of an occasion I could probably get to actually. Thought of when I started off, I wanted to be completely transparent with it all, and I hate greenwashing. I'm the sort of person, I'm fairly smart. I'll look and see something and go, that's probably been greenwashed. And I sort of set that as my level. If I'm trying to trick people, there's people like me out there. They're not going to like our products. They're not going to buy our products. And that goes down to everything. I think even to the packaging. First time when I ordered some packaging to send out, we set up our new website after we'd launched on Amazon. Going to start fulfilling ourselves. I ordered packaging. It was cardboard packaging, great, but it had the little plastic strip along the back when you tear it open. Oh, that's no good then. So I had to go back to the drawing board, come up with something else, and obviously then you can get the ones with the tear off strips. They cost more money, bizarrely. Um, but yeah, so but I've always made decisions like that. I think the only time when I have potentially um, not made the 100% best sustainability choice was when I needed to get the products over. They're normally sea shipped. When I first threw them into Amazon and they sort of sold like hotcakes straight away, I needed to get some more stock over quickly, and I needed to get it over to keep the business going. To be honest, otherwise we'd have had a real cash flow issue. So they were sent over by train at that point. So that was probably one example. But it's certainly something that we're trying not to do.
And you're so you guys are 4 years in now, is that right? Into the
Correct?
business?
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess you've probably learned a lot over those 4 years in terms of like trying to build an environmentally sustainable business, an impact brand. Is there like if there was like one piece of advice, like just one learning that you could go back and tell yourself, Matt 4 years ago going into this, what would that be?
Oh, there's so many. So every week I'm like, why did I do that? Why did I choose to do that? I won't make that mistake again. Um, I think from a business point of view, and I don't know if this is what your listeners might be in, but from a business point of view, people told me cash is king. You've got to keep your cash flow going. And without coming from a business background, I thought, okay, yeah, I'll take that on board. But I didn't realise quite how important it was. And still now today, I'm looking at things thinking, God, I shouldn't have done that, or need to move things around here a little bit and whatever. So that's probably one of my biggest learnings. And it's common knowledge, but I think a lot of people fall into that
Yeah,
trap.
no, I think it's easy to forget when you're so passionate about something and you want to do something that's so impactful. But I guess at the end of the day, like without making profit, there is no business, is there?
No,
So
no.
there's nothing wrong with making a profit. Like you have to make a profit to have a business. And if you can make a profit and do something good at the same time, then that's the ultimate, really, isn't it?
Yeah. There's the car analogy. I think it's like a Simon Sinek thing where he says like, if your business is like a car, like your purpose is the destination you want to get to.
Yeah.
So you want to eradicate plastic sponges because they're awful, basically,
Yeah.
for our health and for our planet and for our children, right? So that's the purpose. That's where you want to get to in the car. But you have to get from A to B, and to do that, you have to put fuel in, and the fuel is the profit. Like that's, and obviously the risk is to fall into a situation where people are making profit to make profit. Like you don't get in a car and put fuel in just to drive around and burn fuel. You want to get somewhere.
I hope people don't do that.
Anyway, it's a good analogy, and I think especially when you got like in the startup phase, because I think you said something really important there is, you were extremely focused on trying to make sure that it wasn't greenwash. You had a truly sustainable product where possible, but then you had a situation where actually, if we don't get these sponges into the UK to fulfill these orders, the business might die. And then there's no getting to that destination. And I
People are
guess
using plastic sponges instead. Yeah.
yeah, and I guess it's an important lesson for people. It's like we have to, we need to be purpose driven is important, but you probably your single biggest objective on a day-to-day basis is probably making that profit.
What do you think have been your biggest hurdles in building this business?
It's getting the name out there, getting the brand out there, getting the message out there, getting the problem of plastic sponges out there. It's that sort of marketing. Um, and social media has been a big help. But if you really want to make a big impact with it all, it costs money, um, even through advertising. And I think that's been the biggest thing for me is the business has been bootstrapped, so it's all from our own money. Um, and it is going in the right direction, but you have to keep a real tight eye on what's going on. You can't just think, well, I'm going to throw that much money at it now because it's going to end up with that kind of results because we haven't got that much money to throw at it. in the first place. So it is getting the message out there that I think has been the biggest problem.
Do you find people can be quite skeptical about green claims just because people are a lot more wary or suspicious of potential greenwashing? Have you had to, do you ever
Yeah.
get people kind of be like, oh, I don't know about that sponge, or, why is it better than this one I use?
I think part of our brand voice is that, as I said, we are transparent and honest. We're a family business. We've done this for the right reason, and I think that comes across. Um, so I don't think we get questioned too much with that. It's quite clear on our website what our materials are made of. It's quite clear that they're openly compostable. Um, I did inquire, and this is something we would love to do at some point. I did inquire about getting that Home OK compostable certification for our products. I was quoted 20 grand to get started, and that's just something that we can't do at this point. Maybe soon in the future, we'll see. But when I inquired about that, which was 2 or 3 years ago, it was like, oh God, that's just not going to be feasible at all. And I think that's another issue, and this probably takes the question in a completely different direction. But to eradicate greenwashing, we really need to have accessible, affordable certifications for it,
Yeah.
so that it's the new businesses, it's the startups that are really making a push on this. Your big brands aren't. They're just happy with their plastic. I'll stick to what I know. They're just happy with their plastic sponges, shoving plastic sponges out there. Um, it's your smaller companies, it's your startups that are really trying to make a difference, trying to give people these sustainable options. But we can't. But let me just change what I was about to say there. But there are also small companies out there that are jumping on the greenwashing hype and
Yeah.
see it as an opportunity and seeing it to make a profit. And while we can differentiate ourselves to there, because we aren't greenwashing, we can't afford the certification to prove it. And I think that's certainly a wider issue that we have faced.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, we're B Corp certified, and I really like the B Corp framework, and I do know it's structured so that there are different price levels depending on the size of the business. But it's not just environmental; it's social as well. So it's more of a kind of encompassing thing. But yeah, it does seem to be a bit of a barrier to small businesses, that fact that it's really difficult to put that stamp on your product, doesn't it?
But I think also the barrier is also like I think the reason that we have this problem is because, like we're at the start of a pretty new industry. There's very little legislation. Like I speak to businesses every day, and they're like, people in sustainability impact roles, some of them for big companies, and they have no idea. They're like, can you tell me what I'm supposed to be doing? What's the legislation? What's this? What's that? So, I guess we're in at the start of something. I think over the next few years, I think we will see more legislation, and that will probably give more support to businesses and probably bring the cost down. I mean, really, you want to have governments giving frameworks to companies that they have to abide by, not private enterprise charging people for accreditations.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
I mean, it does seem over in Europe. Of course, we left the EU, but it does seem over there they're doing better with things, aren't they? They seem to be pushing legislation through and so on. Certain states in America as well, California is quite big on it. But
You say that, but then there's a French company that do what we do in France, and I've spoken to the guy there a couple of times, and he's kind of like, "Oh, it's not as easy as in England. The government's really behind it in England," and I'm like, "No, not really." I was about to say the same about you, so I don't know.
Perhaps we only see the bits that they want us to see, but maybe.
Yeah. Well, the point is there are 400 million plastic sponges out there being sold every year.
Yeah.
And your sponge is better on many levels.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a product that was going to be better for, and as good as it can be for all those reasons, and still works blooming well. And I really think that we've got that, and our reviews show that. I mean, you said at the beginning, Ellie, Good Housekeeping Institute tested our sponges. We're the best plastic-free sponge. We're the best eco sponge. So yeah, I'm really proud of that, to be fair. And that was all done, all that achievement really, until January this year. for the 4 years before that. I was doing that while I was working full time as a teacher. Yeah, really proud of where I've come with that. Now it's time to push it on.
Yeah.
I think you've done incredibly well. I think you should be really proud of that. And I really think this is just a start. If anything, that's probably the learning for anyone else listening that's trying to build a brand or a product is, having a great product is probably the best marketing strategy, right?
Yeah.
Best investment.
That's it.
So we always like to end on the same question.
Okay.
Do you want to do it this week, or do you want me to do it?
Go ahead.
Oh, yes. Okay. So, in 10 years, so we're talking 2035.
Yep.
So on the 26th of March, 2035, where do you see your industry, or where do you see it, and where do you want it to be?
We spoke about it already. We spoke about sponges potentially being banned. I think that's the way to go. Obviously, it'll work out brilliantly for me, but it's what is needed. It's what is needed. We're talking these numbers, 400 million sponges. That's just in the UK. We're a small country. So I would like to think that there's a momentum at least already in place that is pushing for that ban to come in. More widely, and I always answer questions like this in the same way. I've got kids. I've got my daughter's 8 now, 6 next one, and then we went for a third child, and we ended up getting twins. So we've got 2 2-year-old boys as well. But I genuinely think, and it's a bit of a longer term thing here, but I don't want them to talk about sustainability when they're older, because I want it just to be the way that they live. I don't want it to be, well, that's a sustainable way to do it, or let's choose that it's sustainable. I want to live in a world then, or I want them to be an adult in the world then where it's just the way we do stuff. And that's really how I see and I want things to go.
Yeah, what a great vision. What a great vision. Very inspirational.
There's one more day.
Yeah. So where's the best place for people to get the Composty sponges?
Yeah. So if you do shop on Amazon, they are available on there, but we do have our own website, which of course we like you coming to too. So that is www.composty.earth, EARTH, www.composty.earth. Put yourselves over there. Yeah, we're really happy to have you as a customer.
Nice.
Cool. Thank
I'm
you.
off to order my sponge now.
Go for it.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the podcast. We hope it was truly worth your while. For more information, visit reusebox.co.uk/worthyourwhile.
And if you'd like to appear on the next series of Earth Your While, please email media@reusebox.co.uk.